The void of space held secrets, but none more enigmatic than the UES Stalwart. Drifting at the fringes of charted space, the vessel was a whisper, a legend that most considered nothing more than an elaborate myth. Its sleek silhouette defied traditional spacecraft design. Organic curves merged with impossible geometric precision, a testament to humanity's most radical engineering dreams. Captain Alina Rodriguez sat motionless in the command chair, her cybernetic eye casting a pale blue light across the bridge. Unlike traditional military leaders, she was a study in controlled chaos, a woman who had been rejected by every conventional military institution, yet had become the most innovative strategic mind of her generation. Her crew was equally unconventional, a collection of brilliant misfits who had found purpose where others saw only failure. To her left, Dr. Akira Chen monitored the ship's quantum adaptive systems. His fingers danced across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe and pulse with living intelligence. Chen was a quantum physicist who had been dismissed from 3 top-tier research institutions for theories that were considered too radical, too impossible. Here on the Stalwart, those impossible theories were everyday reality. The ship's chief engineer, Marcus Rodriguez, no relation to Alina, but sharing her last name by cosmic coincidence, stood at the engineering station. His body was more machine than flesh, a living testament to humanity's ability to transcend biological limitations. Cybernetic implants traced intricate patterns across his skin, each one a marvel of technological integration that allowed him to communicate directly with the ship's core systems. Quantum stability at 98.7%. Akira reported, his voice calm and precise. The experimental slipstream generators are holding steady. Alina's cybernetic eye zoomed in on distant star charts, processing information at speeds no biological system could match. The Stalwart was more than a ship. It was a living experiment, a prototype that represented the absolute edge of human technological innovation. Every system was adaptive, every component capable of instantaneous reconfiguration. The ship's origin was itself a story of defiance. Developed in secret by a coalition of maverick scientists and military strategists who had been repeatedly told their ideas were impossible, the Stalwart represented humanity's most audacious technological leap. It was funded through a complex network of alternative investment channels, built in hidden shipyards that existed more as a concept than a physical location. Incoming quantum encrypted transmission, announced Lieutenant Sophia Rice from the communication station. Her hands moved with a musician's grace, decrypting signals that would have taken conventional systems weeks to process. It's from the Deep Reconnaissance Network. The holographic displays flickered, revealing fragmented intelligence about the expanding galactic conflict. That Xerathan Imperium was advancing, consuming civilizations with a methodical brutality that suggested more than mere conquest. It was a systematic elimination of potential resistance. Alina's lips curved into the slightest smile. Most would see the transmission as a warning. She saw an opportunity. Prepare quantum slipstream initialization, she commanded, her voice carrying a quiet intensity that brooked no argument. We're going to change the game. The crew moved with a synchronicity that suggested they were more than individual humans. They were a unified organism, each member an essential component of a complex living system. The Stalwart wasn't just a vessel of war. It was a statement, a declaration that humanity's potential was limited only by imagination and the willingness to challenge every known boundary. As the ship's quantum drives began to hum, a sound that was more felt than heard, Alina Rodriguez knew they were about to write a new chapter in galactic history. The ghost ship was awakening, and nothing would ever be the same. The galactic war had become a symphony of destruction, with civilizations falling like delicate glass sculptures shattered by an unseen hammer. The Xerathan Imperium moved with a calculated precision that suggested more than mere military conquest. It was a systematic elimination of potential resistance. Entire star systems went dark, their communications reduced to ghostly echoes that faded into the cosmic void. In the hidden command centers of the remaining free civilizations, hope had become a rare and fragile commodity. Military strategists spoke in hushed tones, their holographic maps showing an inexorable tide of destruction that seemed unstoppable. The Exarethans' technological superiority was overwhelming. Energy weapons that could strip planets of their atmospheres, quantum dampening fields that neutralized entire defensive networks, and a strategic intelligence that anticipated and crushed resistance before it could fully form. Captain Elena Rodriguez studied these reports with a predator's intensity. Where others saw a certain defeat, she saw a complex puzzle waiting to be solved. The bridge of the Stalwart hummed with a quiet energy, each crew member processing information through neural interfaces that blurred the line between human intelligence and machine calculation. The Centauri Defense Network will fall within 72 hours, Dr. Akira Chen reported, his voice devoid of emotion, but laden with significance. Their quantum shields are already showing 63% degradation. Marcus Rodriguez's cybernetic systems interface directly with the ship's tactical displays. Holographic projections danced around him, showing potential intervention points that conventional military thinking would never consider. "We have a 0.03% window of opportunity," he said. "Most would consider it statistically irrelevant. We're going to thread that needle." Elena's cybernetic eye zoomed in on the complex web of galactic conflict. The Exarethans' advance was methodical, almost mathematical, which meant it was predictable to those who could see beyond traditional strategic frameworks. The Stalwart wasn't just a ship. It was a living, breathing strategic algorithm designed to exploit the smallest vulnerabilities. Lieutenant Sophia Reyes began decrypting a series of quantum-encrypted transmissions. Her fingers moved with a musician's precision, extracting layers of information that most communication systems would dismiss as background noise. "I'm detecting a pattern in their fleet movements," she announced. "It's subtle, but there's a recurring quantum signature that suggests a centralized control mechanism." The crew of the Stalwart was unlike any military unit in galactic history. They weren't soldiers in the traditional sense, but a hybrid of human intuition and technological innovation. Each member had been rejected by conventional institutions, too radical, too unconventional, too dangerous in their thinking. Here on this ship, they were more than accepted. They were essential. "Prepare the quantum slipstream drive," Elena commanded. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of an impossible mission. They were going to insert themselves into a conflict where every rational calculation suggested total failure. Marcus looked up, a rare smile crossing his partially cybernetic face. "Probability of success is less than 0.001%, he said, "which means we have a chance." The ship's quantum drives began to pulse, a sound more felt than heard, a vibration that seemed to exist between reality and possibility. The Stalwart wasn't just preparing for a mission. It was about to rewrite the entire understanding of strategic intervention. As the final preparations completed, Elena Rodriguez reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Rejected, forgotten, considered impossible. These were not limitations. They were the raw materials of transformation. That Exarethan Imperium was about to learn a fundamental truth about humanity. True potential is never found in conformity, but in the willingness to challenge every known boundary. The impossible mission was about to begin. The moment of emergence was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The Stalwart burst from its quantum slipstream with a silent intensity that defied conventional physics, materializing in the heart of the Exarethan battle formation, like a ghost given impossible substance. Alien communication channels erupted in a cacophony of disbelief. The Exarethan fleet commanders, massive crystalline beings whose thought processes spanned multiple dimensional matrices, initially burst into their version of laughter. A single human vessel, appearing from nowhere, seemed like the most ridiculous form of resistance imaginable. "Incoming weapon locks," Lieutenant Sophia Reyes announced, her voice calm and clinical. 17 primary battle cruisers preparing to fire. 18 secondary support vessels charging quantum disruptors. Captain Elena Rodriguez didn't move. Her cybernetic eye calculated potential trajectories faster than any biological system could comprehend. "Akira," she called softly. "Activate quantum resonance pattern Alpha 9. Dr. Akira Chen's fingers danced across the holographic interfaces. The ship's hull began to shimmer, not with the typical energy shielding known to galactic civilizations, but with something entirely different. It was as if the stalwart was breathing, its very molecular structure becoming fluid adaptive. The first wave of Xarathan weapons fired. Massive energy discharges that could vaporize entire planetary defense platforms streaked toward the human vessel. But something extraordinary happened. As the weapons approached, the stalwart's hull seemed to understand them. Each energy beam was not just deflected but absorbed, analyzed, and transformed. The ship's quantum adaptive systems began to decode the weapon's fundamental energy signature in microseconds. What should have been a moment of total destruction became something entirely unexpected. Marcus Rodriguez's cybernetic systems interfaced directly with the ship's core. "Weapon energy being redirected," he reported. "Quantum entanglement at 99.7% efficiency." His voice carried a hint of excitement. This was beyond theoretical science. This was pure, applied innovation. The Xarathan commanders watched in growing horror. Their most advanced weapons were being turned into nothing more than streams of data, analyzed and neutralized before they could cause any damage. The human vessel moved with a fluidity that challenged everything they understood about space combat. "Initiating communication protocol," Sophia reported. But this was no traditional communication. The stalwart began transmitting on quantum frequencies that most civilizations didn't even know existed. It was simultaneously a message, a weapon, and a fundamental challenge to the Xarathan's understanding of conflict. Elena Rodriguez watched the alien fleet with a predator's focus. "We're not here to destroy," she said quietly. "We're here to demonstrate." The ship began to move, if move could even describe the impossibility of its motion. It didn't simply navigate through space. It seemed to fold space around itself, appearing in multiple positions simultaneously, each position a strategic point that exposed the fundamental weaknesses in the Xarathan battle formation. Alien tactical systems began to fail. Communication networks collapsed. The most advanced battle fleet in the known galaxy found itself completely paralyzed by a single human vessel that seemed to exist outside the known laws of physics and strategy. "Quantum interference patterns stabilized," Akira reported. The excitement in his voice was barely containable. This was more than a military engagement. This was a fundamental redefinition of what was possible. The Xarathan commander's communication channels filled with a mixture of confusion, fear, and something they had never experienced before when facing an opponent: total incomprehension. Captain Elena Rodriguez allowed herself the slightest smile. First contact had just been redefined, and the galaxy would never be the same. The true nature of the stalwart's capabilities began to unfold like a complex mathematical theorem made manifest. Where other vessels were mere machines, this ship was a living, breathing ecosystem of technological innovation that defied every known principle of engineering and quantum mechanics. Dr. Akira Chen stood at the core interface, his hands moving in intricate patterns that seemed to conduct the ship's very essence. The quantum adaptive defense system was more than a shield. It was a living intelligence that processed incoming threats with a level of complexity that bordered on sentience. Molecular reconfiguration at 99.8%. Marcus Rodriguez reported, his cybernetic systems interfacing directly with the ship's core. Each of his neural implants was a masterpiece of human engineering, allowing him to perceive the ship's systems in ways no traditional sensor could comprehend. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched the holographic displays with a predator's intensity. Each incoming weapon strike was not just a threat to be defended against, but a piece of information to be understood, analyzed, and ultimately transformed. The first wave of Xarathan weapons had been merely a prelude. Now the full might of their technological arsenal converged on the stalwart. Quantum disruptors that could theoretically unravel atomic structures, energy beams capable of stripping planets of their atmospheres, dimensional compression weapons that could collapse entire space-time matrices, all focused on a single human vessel. But the Stalwart was no ordinary ship. As each weapon approached, the ship's hull began to do something impossible. It didn't just absorb or deflect energy. It began to communicate with it. The molecular structure of the ship became a living translation matrix, breaking down each incoming attack into its fundamental quantum components, understanding its very essence. Weapon signature decoded, Sophia Rise announced, her voice carrying a note of barely contained excitement. Quantum entanglement at maximum efficiency. We're not just defending, we're learning. The ship's adaptive systems worked on a level that challenged the fundamental understanding of physics. Each attack became a language, each weapon strike a sentence in a complex dialogue of technological communication. The Stalwart was reading the Tarathan's technological language, understanding their most advanced weapons at a molecular level. Marcus's cybernetic systems began to overlay the decoded weapon signatures onto the ship's defensive matrix. We're creating a real-time adaptive shield, he explained. Not just blocking, transforming. Each incoming attack is being used to strengthen our own defensive capabilities. It was warfare as a form of rapid evolution. The Exarethan commanders watched in growing horror. Their most advanced weapons were being turned into nothing more than streams of data, analyzed and neutralized before they could cause any significant damage. The human vessel moved with a fluidity that suggested it was thinking, adapting, evolving with each microsecond of conflict. Quantum resonance field expanding, Ekura reported. The holographic displays showed something extraordinary. The Stalwart wasn't just defending itself. It was actively creating a field of technological influence that was beginning to affect the surrounding space-time matrix. Elena Rodriguez understood what was happening at a level few could comprehend. This wasn't just a battle. It was a conversation, a complex dialogue of technological potential being written in real time. We're rewriting the rules of engagement, she said quietly, more to herself than to her crew. The Stalwart continued its impossible dance, transforming weapons into information, threats into opportunities. It was a living testament to human innovation, a vessel that did not just resist, but fundamentally challenged the very concept of resistance. And the galaxy watched, transfixed. The true power of the Stalwart existed in the space between technology and human potential, a realm that no alien civilization had ever truly understood. Each crew member was more than just a specialist. They were living, breathing components of a complex organism that thought, adapted, and evolved faster than any known technological system. Captain Elena Rodriguez embodied this principle perfectly. Her cybernetic eye wasn't just a technological enhancement, but an extension of her own remarkable cognitive abilities. Where most would see chaos, she perceived intricate patterns of possibility. Her background told a story of persistent innovation. Rejected by traditional military academies, she had spent years developing strategic approaches that challenged every conventional understanding of conflict. To her left, Dr. Akira Chen worked with a musician's precision. His hands moved across quantum interfaces that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. Chen was a theoretical physicist who had been dismissed from multiple research institutions for ideas considered too radical. Here on the Stalwart, those impossible theories were everyday reality. Marcus Rodriguez, no relation to Elena, but sharing her last name by cosmic coincidence, represented the pinnacle of human-machine integration. His body was a masterpiece of cybernetic engineering, with neural implants that traced intricate patterns across his skin. Each implant was a marvel of technological innovation, allowing him to communicate directly with the ship's core systems in a way that blurred the line between organic intelligence and machine precision. Lieutenant Sophia Reyes managed the ship's communication systems with an intuition that defied traditional understanding. Her ability to decrypt and interpret quantum-encrypted transmissions went beyond technical skill. It was almost a form of linguistic artistry. Where most would see incomprehensible data streams, she perceived complex narratives waiting to be understood. During the height of the conflict, Their synchronicity became their greatest weapon. Therathan fleet adjusting quantum frequency, Sophia reported, her voice calm and precise. Before the words fully left her mouth, Akira was already recalibrating the ship's defensive matrices. Marcus's cybernetic systems interfaced with the ship's core, anticipating movement patterns that no traditional sensor could detect. Predictive modeling shows a 0.03% vulnerability in their left quantum flank, he announced. Most would dismiss such a minute probability. The stalwart's crew saw it as an opportunity. Elena's cybernetic eye zoomed in, processing multiple layers of strategic information simultaneously. "Target acquired," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of a decision that would reshape the entire conflict. What made the crew extraordinary wasn't just their individual capabilities, but their ability to function as a unified organism. Their neural interfaces created a symbiotic network that allowed them to think and act as a single, impossibly complex intelligence. Traditional military units followed orders. The stalwart's crew anticipated them. "We're not just fighting," Elena explained during a rare moment of reflection. "We're having a conversation with the very nature of conflict." Each crew member carried a story of rejection and remarkable potential. They were the misfits, the radical thinkers who had been told their ideas were impossible. Here on this ship, they were more than accepted. They were essential. The Xerathan Imperium had encountered countless civilizations. They understood technological superiority, strategic calculations, military might. But they had never encountered anything like human intuition, that inexplicable ability to transform limitation into opportunity, to see potential where others saw only impossibility. As the battle continued, the stalwart moved with a fluidity that suggested it was thinking, adapting, evolving with each microsecond of conflict. And at its heart were humans, remarkable, unpredictable, absolutely unstoppable. The stalwart's intervention was more than a military engagement. It was a quantum communication revolution that would reshape the entire galactic landscape. Lieutenant Sophia Rice worked with an intensity that transformed communication from a passive transmission into an active, living network of resistance. Quantum communication channels began to light up across multiple star systems. Where once there was isolation, fear, and certain defeat, the stalwart created a web of hope that defied the Therathan Imperium's attempts to divide and conquer. Each transmission was a lifeline, each encrypted message a spark of potential. Centauri Defense Network receiving tactical updates, Sophia reported, her fingers moving across holographic interfaces that pulsed with living data. The Mira Collective is synchronizing defensive protocols. We're creating a unified response. Dr. Akira Chen elaborated on the technical marvel behind their communication strategy. "It's not just about sharing information," he explained. "We're creating a distributed intelligence network. Each civilization adds its unique perspective, its innovative potential. The Xerathan never anticipated a resistance that could think as a collective." The communication network was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't a top-down military command structure, but a dynamic, adaptive system where each participant could contribute, analyze, and innovate. Small civilizations that had been on the brink of total elimination now found themselves part of a living, breathing strategic organism. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched the holographic displays with a sense of profound understanding. This was humanity's true strength, not just technological innovation, but the ability to create connection, to transform isolation into collective potential. Marcus Rodriguez's cybernetic systems began to overlay the communication network's growing complexity. "Defensive pattern recognition is increasing exponentially," he announced. "Each transmission is not just sharing data, it's teaching. We're creating a learning network that adapts faster than any centralized system." The Therathan Imperium's communication suppression technologies began to fail. Their most advanced quantum dampening fields were being decoded, analyzed, and circumvented in real time. What they had designed as a method of control became a pathway for resistance. Isolated civilizations began to share more than just tactical information. They shared stories of resistance, innovative defensive technologies, cultural insights that provided unique strategic perspectives. A Zorn energy manipulation technique became integrated with Centauri quantum shielding. A Mira collective communication algorithm enhanced long-range detection capabilities. "We're rewriting the fundamental rules of galactic conflict," Elena said, more to herself than to her crew. The holographic displays showed something extraordinary, a network of resistance that was growing more powerful with each passing moment. Sophia detected something unprecedented. "Multiple civilizations are not just defending," she reported. "They're beginning to coordinate offensive strategies. The communication network is becoming a living, adaptive resistance movement." The Stalwart had become more than a ship. It was a catalyst, a beacon of possibility that demonstrated a fundamental truth about collective potential. Where the Xerathan Imperium saw civilizations as isolated targets to be conquered, the human vessel revealed them as part of a complex, interconnected ecosystem of potential. Icarus quantum analysis showed something remarkable. "The communication network's adaptive potential is increasing exponentially," he said, a note of wonder in his voice. "We're not just sharing information. We're creating a new form of collective intelligence." As the galactic conflict continued, the Stalwart remained at the center of this transformation. A single human vessel had done what no military force had ever accomplished. It had united the galaxy not through conquest, but through the simple, powerful act of connection. The Xerathan Imperium was about to learn a fundamental lesson about resistance, potential, and the extraordinary power of collective hope. The conflict had transformed from a traditional war into something entirely unprecedented. The Stalwart was no longer just a vessel. It had become a living algorithm of resistance, a dynamic system that evolved with each passing moment of engagement. Strategic matrices began to collapse under the weight of an entirely new form of warfare. Their centralized command structures, which had been the cornerstone of their military might, became their greatest vulnerability. Where they expected predictability, they encountered something far more dangerous: adaptive, collective intelligence. Captain Elena Rodriguez understood the deeper implications of their strategy. "We're not fighting their war," she explained to her crew during a critical strategic review. "We're creating an entirely new paradigm of conflict resolution." Dr. Akira Chen's quantum analysis revealed the profound depth of their approach. The Stalwart wasn't just collecting data, it was creating a living, breathing strategic ecosystem. Each encounter became a learning opportunity, each interaction a chance to understand and deconstruct the fundamental principles of the Xerathan's technological and strategic infrastructure. Marcus Rodriguez's cybernetic systems interfaced with the ship's core, displaying complex holographic representations of their evolving strategy. "Our adaptive response rate is increasing exponentially," he reported. "We're not just defending. We're teaching the entire network how to think differently." The ship's technological capabilities defied conventional understanding. Weapon systems were no longer just tools of destruction, but complex communication devices. Energy signatures became languages, defensive matrices transformed into interactive learning networks. The Stalwart moved through space like a living, thinking entity that understood conflict as a form of communication. Lieutenant Sophia Reyes managed a communication network that was rewriting the fundamental rules of galactic interaction. Isolated civilizations that had once been on the brink of total elimination now found themselves part of a dynamic, adaptive resistance movement. Information flowed like a living organism, each transmission adding layers of complexity and understanding. The Xerathan Imperium found itself facing an opponent that didn't just resist, it transformed. Traditional military strategists had always viewed conflict as a linear progression of attack and defense. The Stalwart revealed it as a multidimensional conversation of potential. "We're revealing the true nature of collective potential," Elena explained during a critical strategic briefing. Her cybernetic eye analyzed multiple layers of information simultaneously, seeing patterns that no traditional intelligence system could comprehend. Akira's quantum analysis showed something extraordinary. The communication network they had created was developing its own form of intelligence. It wasn't just sharing information. It was learning, adapting, evolving at a rate that challenged every known principle of technological development. The ship's very existence became a challenge to the Xerathans' understanding of technological superiority. Where they saw conflict as a matter of overwhelming force, the stalwart demonstrated that true power existed in adaptability, in the ability to transform limitation into opportunity. Marcus detected something unprecedented. The network's adaptive potential is creating micro-evolutionary patterns, he reported. We're not just resisting. We're fundamentally changing the nature of galactic interaction. Each moment of conflict became a learning opportunity. Defensive technologies from one civilization were rapidly integrated with communication strategies from another. What the Xerathan had designed as a method of total control became a pathway for unprecedented collective innovation. The Stalwart had become more than a ship. It was a living testament to human potential, a demonstration that true power existed not in destruction, but in the ability to connect, to understand, to transform. As the galactic conflict continued, one thing became increasingly clear. The Xerathan Imperium was facing an opponent that didn't just challenge their technological superiority, but fundamentally questioned their entire understanding of conflict, potential, and collective intelligence. The paradigm was shifting, and humanity was leading the way. The final confrontation was never about destroying an enemy. It was about fundamentally transforming the entire understanding of conflict, potential, and collective intelligence. The Xerathan Imperium found itself facing an opponent that defied every known principle of warfare. The Stalwart was no longer just a vessel. It had become a living, breathing manifestation of human potential, a dynamic system that challenged the very foundations of galactic interaction. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of this cosmic transformation. Her cybernetic eye processed multiple layers of information simultaneously, seeing patterns that transcended traditional strategic thinking. The ship around her was more than a technological marvel. It was a living proof of humanity's extraordinary capacity for innovation and adaptation. "We're not here to conquer," she said quietly, her voice carrying across quantum communication channels that spanned multiple star systems. "We're here to demonstrate a different way of existing." Dr. Akira Chen's quantum analysis revealed the profound depth of their approach. The communication network they had created was now a living, evolving intelligence. Each civilization contributed not just tactical information, but unique perspectives that transformed the very nature of collective problem-solving. Marcus Rodriguez's cybernetic systems interfaced with the ship's core, displaying holographic representations of their most audacious strategy yet. The Stalwart was preparing to do something unprecedented, to offer the Xerathan Imperium a chance to transform rather than be destroyed. Lieutenant Sophia Reyes managed a communication matrix that had become the most complex adaptive network in galactic history. Isolated civilizations that had once been on the brink of total elimination now worked together with a synchronicity that defied traditional understanding of cooperation. The Xerathan leadership watched in growing incomprehension. Their most advanced predictive matrices failed completely. The human vessel moved with a fluidity that suggested it was thinking, adapting, evolving with each microsecond of engagement. It wasn't just resisting. It was communicating on a level that challenged their entire understanding of conflict. "We're revealing the true nature of collective potential," Elena explained. Her words transmitted across multiple quantum frequencies, reaching not just the Xerathan leadership, but every civilization caught in the conflict. The ship's defensive systems became something more than protection. They were a living dialogue, transforming incoming threats into opportunities for understanding. Each weapon strike was decoded, analyzed, and returned as a form of communication that spoke louder than any traditional diplomatic channel. Marcus detected something extraordinary. The network's adaptive potential is creating new forms of collective intelligence, he reported. "We're not just resisting. We're demonstrating an entirely new way of existing." The final moments of the confrontation were unlike any conflict in galactic history. The stalwart didn't defeat the Carithan Imperium. It offered them a choice: transform or become obsolete, adapt or be left behind by a new form of collective intelligence that saw conflict as a conversation, not a destruction. Akira's quantum analysis showed a remarkable truth. The communication network they had created was evolving faster than any known technological system. It wasn't just sharing information. It was creating a new understanding of potential, of connection, of collective possibility. As the galactic conflict reached its crescendo, one thing became crystal clear. Humanity had introduced something entirely new to the cosmic stage. It wasn't about technological superiority or military might. It was about the extraordinary power of collective intelligence, of seeing potential where others saw only conflict. The stalwart hung in space, a beacon of possibility, a living testament to human potential. It had done more than join a galactic war. It had fundamentally transformed how civilizations would understand conflict, cooperation, and collective potential. The universe would never be the same.